So I just want to take a moment to just, feel the joy, feel the love, the great food, the drinks, the entertainment, the community, all of our friends, because we really, really need to feel those good vibes and the joy. Because right now, that joy is not available to everybody because of what we're living through right now. I have a couple of stories that I want to share about the programs, the people that are impacted by our programs. Deborah, Neighborhood House's home visitor, provided weekly visits to Sophia, a local mom who just gave birth by C-section. Sophia was going through the pain and recovery of giving birth, the sleepless nights, the breastfeeding, the diaper changing, and postpartum depression, all by herself while raising her toddler because her husband had been deported. And she herself had orders for deportation, making what should have been a time of joy and a time of celebration, a time of intense trauma and loss. Deborah brought diapers, food, information on caring for the baby and the toddler, and she was the only person Sophia trusted to come to the home and her only lifeline during this terrible time. And although Sophia and her children ultimately self-deported to rejoin her husband, Deborah provided comfort and a sympathetic ear, making a terrifying time for the family somewhat more bearable. In 2019, Abdul and Amina came to the United States from Afghanistan, and Abdul had risked his life and his family's safety by serving the US military as an interpreter. They settled in Kent, rebuilding their lives while raising 3 children. Abdul worked full-time, and Amina dedicated herself to learning English and raising her family. With Neighborhood House's help, in 2024, they applied for US citizenship. And despite being denied an education by the Taliban, Amina overcame deep anxiety to pass the citizenship exam on her first attempt. Despite following all the rules, their citizenship applications were in limbo. Months passed with no decision about Amina's citizenship and no interview at all for Abdul. The uncertainty took an emotional toll, but Marissa, Neighborhood House's citizenship supervisor, escalated the case, securing help from Senator Patty Murray's office. Within weeks, Abdul finally received an interview, and with our support, he also passed. Still, they waited. Then 1 week later, 1 hour apart, they received their oath notices, and on June 10, 2025, exactly 1 year after applying, Abdul and Amina became US citizens. In October 2024, Angel Berry, our youth advocate supervisor, whom you just met, received an email from a young man named Anthony who had been referred to our program through South Seattle College, where he was working towards his high school diploma. At the time, Anthony was struggling financially, receiving SNAP and Social Security, and caring for a family member without compensation. As Angel and Anthony worked together, they explored a path that matched his strengths and determined he could become a Washington State certified home care aide. This allowed him to get paid for the care he was already providing, find stable employment, and move towards a long-term career goal, including building a music career or starting a business. Angel and Neighborhood House provided mentorship, financial assistance, and educational support. And in June 2025, Anthony graduated with his high school diploma and is continuing his career at his education at South Seattle College. Yay. Today, Anthony's a certified home care aide. He's stably employed. He no longer relies on SNAP, and he's moved into a safer neighborhood. So the reasons Sophia, Abdul, Amina, and Anthony, and over 13,000 people come to Neighborhood House seeking help are not a mystery. The reasons are rooted in our nation's shared history, a history of chattel slavery, racism, colonization, wealth inequality, and wars of choice. We are all impacted, but not equally. For some of us, it may mean paying a little more at the gas pump. But for others, it means poverty, family separation, hunger, homelessness, or even an early death. Since January 2025, life has become even more precarious for immigrants and people experiencing poverty. The federal government has implemented sweeping and coordinated efforts to expand immigration enforcement, restrict legal status, deter and reduce access to benefits like SNAP and Medicaid and healthcare subsidies. The result is predictable and devastating. Families are at risk of losing housing, losing healthcare, losing access to food benefits, being detained, incarcerated, or separated, being isolated, unable to attend church, go shopping, or visit a park. Collectively, the actions of the federal government threaten our most vulnerable community members: children, older adults, people with disabilities, low and moderate income people, people of color, and immigrants are all less safe, less secure, and more disenfranchised. Some of the worst examples we've seen include abruptly terminating the lawful status of asylum seekers, so people that are in the US legally are suddenly undocumented and unable to work. Allowing ICE to detain people at schools, hospitals, or childcare centers, making the simple act of going to school or the grocery store an impossible choice between starving and risking detention. And intentionally cutting food and healthcare benefits, restricting eligibility, and instituting work and high paperwork requirements. In the last 15 months, our benefit system designed to ease suffering and offer opportunity are being turned into enforcement tools, punishment for the crime of not being born a US citizen, born rich, or born white. Earlier this year, I took my 90-year-old uncle to record an oral history of his experience being incarcerated as a child during World War II. At the time, he was 6 years old, and our government locked him up for the crime of being Japanese American. He was considered a traitor at 6 years old. He missed 2 years of school. His experience had a devastating impact on him. It changed his life. 120,000 Japanese and Japanese American men, women, and children were excluded from the West Coast because of wartime hysteria, racism, and failure of political leadership. An entire race was seen by the government and amplified by the press as less than human, unassimilable, treacherous, stealing jobs, and deserving of being locked up. Sound familiar? It should, because we're doing it again. We have one such camp right here in our backyard. The Northwest Detention Center in Tacoma is run by the GEO Group and is notorious for deplorable conditions, driving those incarcerated to launch a hunger strike or even self-deport while awaiting the outcomes of their case. Inadequate food, unsanitary water, lack of medical care, and over 3,000 complaints to the Department of Health led our state to sue yet again for the right to enter the prison to conduct health and safety inspections, which were denied. Congress granted the Department of Homeland Security $38 billion for the acquisition and renovation of new detention facilities, not unlike the one where my uncle was held. This is the United States we live in today, May 7, 2026. And in moments like this, when fear is fed deliberately, when cruelty is disguised as policy, when silence becomes complicity, it matters how we respond. There were so many acts of courage, large and small, 84 years ago, when my uncle and my mother and 120,000 Japanese Americans and Japanese people were incarcerated. And we're seeing acts of courage like that, big and small, every single day. At Neighborhood House, that courage looks like Deborah providing comfort to an immigrant family separated from her husband, Marissa accompanying immigrants to their citizenship interview, or Angel connecting a young person to a brighter future. That courage also looks like you. There were so many of you out there already. If you're a current or former Neighborhood House staff, volunteer, board member, policy council member, raise your hand. I know you already stood up, but just raise your hand. wave. Thank you. If you are a social worker, teacher, healthcare provider, human service worker, attorney, minister, or someone that works directly with or alongside marginalized community members, raise your hand. And if you have attended one or more protests, contacted your elected official, shared food at a neighborhood free pantry, or are somehow engaged in supporting your community, raise your hand. And raise your hand if you support Neighborhood House and other organizations working on housing, food justice, early learning, youth development, or human rights. Hopefully that's all of us. That courage is us. That courage looks like us. We are the activists. We are the caregivers. We are the people that refuse to look away. We are not waiting for the heroes. We are the heroes. We are the people we've been waiting for. And if you're wondering what to do next, tonight is one answer. Your generosity funds that courage. It funds protection, it funds dignity, it funds possibility. Together, we're doing what matters most. Thank you.